Hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing Green Arrows. Today I have with me a diehard United fan, Mr. Zohair Khan. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Musti. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast for
No,
once.
it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for coming. Excited to have football back. Finally, something to watch after the lockdown.
Honestly, it's been quite the change. I had to get used to having football back on the TV, and especially with the condensed schedule.
Yeah.
It took a little bit of getting used to, from having just the autopilot that on the weekend I'm going to wake up, I'm going to watch my United games. Then I was like, I got to check every day. Is there a game on? What time is it? What's going on? Who are we playing? What competition it is? But yeah, man, super thankful to have footy back.
Yeah, and despite no fans in the ground and stuff at the stadium, with the crowd noise, it's still watchable and it's still amazing to watch. It doesn't. It feels like normal. What do you feel about that?
I mean,
not normal, but you know what I mean.
For sure, not normal, but it's definitely it's been better than I thought it would be. Given how much of an impact the crowd has in any Premier League game, in any football game, any top tier football game. How much of a 12th man role they can play, the ebbs and flows of the noise of the crowd. It can really spur a team on. It can really help drive them forward. And conversely, if you feel like your fans aren't there, I feel like it can really demotivate a team as well. I think that those play huge parts in football. But right now, the way that they've been able to bring football back has been sort of like that best case compromise, that best case scenario, which I didn't think it would be as smoothly done when they were talking about it, but I'm glad to see the way that it's been brought back.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we didn't have football for 3 months, it just everyone's down to watch whatever is on. Even the La Liga, German League, especially the Premier League. I think people are just excited to have something to look forward to during the day.
100%, man, 100%. Like, I've definitely tailored my expectations. I was like, if they're bringing back footy, if they're going to bring back the Premier League, you can't be nitpicking on every little detail. I was really curious to see how people would react to, the re-implementation of VAR, because that was sort of the story of the season before everything went on hold because of the pandemic. It's, what do you think of VAR? Either you for it or you're against it. You think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to the league. And I was just, I'm just really curious to see how people would react to it coming back. Because it's like, hey, I'm just really thankful to have some sort of football back. I'll take the egregious goal line decisions and the missing offside calls to go with it. It's part and parcel of the package.
Yeah, definitely. And you watched the game today, United 3-0, convincing victory. How excited were you and your initial thoughts about the game? It was a clinical performance, especially after the Norwich game, which was a bit scrappy.
I think it was a really good performance for us to put in, like you said, especially in light of the game against Norwich. I think against Norwich, we struggled a bit. It was a more laborious sort of effort, if you will. That game, especially coming from like the high of the performance against Sheffield, which is a very dominant, thorough performance, very clinical, sort of dominated them throughout the course of the game. The result was never in any doubt. And then you went and play against a team, a Norwich team that is, theoretically weaker. Your team looks to be in better form. And you make a hard slog out of it for 120 minutes. You have to go through all this additional time and whatnot. And I was just hoping that it wouldn't go to penalties, because that would have been the worst case scenario.
Tim Krul.
Tim Krul, man. Tim Krul. The guy's like an octopus. But yeah, honestly, today was the perfect response because, again, Brighton, a team that's not necessarily the strongest on paper, but has the potential to be, a banana peel, has the potential to slip up a bigger team coming in and not taking them seriously. And I was really happy to see the squad was focused. There was a good concrete game plan in place, and we were able to find inspiration and talent, across various different sections of the pitch.
Do the last two, the Brighton game and the performance in this game and the Norwich game, does it concern you a bit regarding the squad depth? Because today's performance, we had Manchester United had their 11, starting 11, who did normally start in big games, whereas it was the bench in the Norwich game. But there's a huge difference in performance. So does that worry you in terms of squad strength and bench strength?
I think it's a very good question you asked about squad strength and bench strength, because it is something that has come up. It is a small sample size. So It's something that, I wouldn't necessarily want to be like, this is definitively how it is, because just like I can say that in one way it's good, because what we're seeing is that with this newer look, newer shape United, we're better able to put away smaller teams that we were struggling against. Those teams that we would go in and we would drop 2 points against, which is a big part of where we are this season, the dropping of 2 points, right? You go in, you get a draw, or you lose to a team that you shouldn't be losing. Those dropping of points is a big reason as to why we aren't doing better this year, and definitely was a big part of why we sucked so much last year. So in a way, it's nice that we're moving away from that, but it is still a valid concern that you say that with this compressed schedule, the dip in quality that comes about when it is our B squad, when it is our sort of reserves, if you will, when it's not the big boys lining up. It is a little bit of a concern, but I still think it's something that can be managed to a certain extent with good man management, good tactics, and good rotation. But let's see, it's still only been just a couple of games.
Yeah, you could say it's you could blame a bit of it to rustiness because the bench didn't play before the Norwich game, so you could blame some of that to rustiness. But I guess, like you said, we probably have to look into it after a few more games. Till the end of the season, we'll probably have a better shout, and then United might go and pick some good squad players like Grealish or something like that if needed, depending on the performances till the end of the season. But yeah, I think let's crack down to the player ratings for today's game.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah, so David De Gea in goal. A lot of criticism after the Tottenham game. Didn't have much to do in the first half, but second half he pulled out a couple of great saves. How would you rate his performance out of 10?
So for me, yeah, you have to mention De Gea's recent performances. I'm a diehard De Gea supporter. Supported him through the good and the bad. I remember when he was struggling to hold the spot against Anders Lindgaard. Yeah. And even now when he's been struggling a little bit, I think that, form is temporary, class is permanent. I think that after everything he's done for us, some of the criticism, while justified, has been a little bit harsh.
I agree with that. Yeah.
That being said, today you got to see why he is so important to United. There was nothing much happening for the first half. Very quiet game, not much to do, and then all of a sudden he's called to make upon at least one, if not two, world-class saves, and then a handful of other definitely very important saves. I'd say that I'd be happy giving De Gea, just on the performance of the first half, I would have been giving him around like a 6 or a 7, but based on the second half, I'd be going up to around an 8.
I think that's fair enough. And another point, like a lot of people are talking about Dean Henderson coming into the mix and everything, but like I don't know what you feel about this, but I think probably give De Gea at least one more year. He deserves that, and I think Dean Henderson will be. I don't think he'll be able to live up to the task straight away, right? Like you'll want him to slowly get into the first come to United, play a few games, and then slowly bring him in. You wouldn't want to take out De Gea right now, and because a lot of people are saying his wages and everything, it's better if you just take out De Gea. But don't you think that's a bit rushed?
For me personally, like I am, on the more conservative side of things when it comes to this. I think that we should definitely give De Gea another season to show what he's worth. Yeah. The other thing with Dean Henderson, as phenomenal as he's been, and love the fact that he's a local lad. Love the fact that he's, United youth team. We should be trying to bring up as many of these players as possible. The fact of the matter remains is that he's only played one season in the Premier League for Sheffield. So we only got his performances from this season that we're really extrapolating the rest of his career on. So as amazing as he's been, I'd like to see him for at least another season playing in the top flight.
That's a great
to see
point.
How he does.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can make a more sort of like, concrete decision about which direction we want to go in the future. If you want to ask me just based on current performance, do I think he's the future? Yes, I do. But I don't think it hurts to have him play on loan for one more season, help him build some vital experience, but also letting us give a club legend the proper farewell that he deserves.
Yeah, and you don't need to rush things, especially like we know what De Gea is capable of. Yes, he'll make mistakes, but I don't think, like you're right, we don't have to rush things in this situation. But now let's move on to the right back, Wan-Bissaka. Didn't have much to do, but defensively he's always been solid. Attacking-wise, yes, he's been criticized, but he again pulled out, you could say it was a simple pass, but it was assist nonetheless for Greenwood for the first goal. So how would you rate his performance?
I think Wan-Bissaka, for me, I've always tended to rate him higher than others because I value the defensive aspect of his game. Yeah. If you compare him to, let's say, a Trent Alexander-Arnold, he doesn't necessarily stack up in the same way from a statistical perspective because he doesn't give you that much going forward. He's not delivering these, pinpoint balls off set pieces. He's not, putting in these crazy crosses into the box. But what he is doing game in, game out is defensively locking down that entire right wing. It's very hard to get past him. He makes sure that your house is secure before stepping out and running around and doing the rest of it. And I think that now that we're beginning to see his offensive game flourish a little bit, his ability to drive forward, his ability to get past his man and to put in a quality ball, I'm really happy with that development because I was happy with just having a really solid defensive fullback. And now to have someone that can put in a good ball going up front, I mean, I think that's just a blessing on top of another blessing. In terms of a rating, again, solid guy, really happy with him. The assist has to count, simple ball or not. You still have to play that ball for it to happen. I'd be happy giving Wan-Bissaka an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Yeah, that's fair enough. And let's go to the center backs. Harry Maguire, King Harry he didn't score a goal today, but what do you think about his performance? Clean sheet, not much to do again, but he looked composed at the back.
There wasn't, again, this is one of those games where it was a little bit difficult to judge the center backs because there wasn't much for them to do. I think both him and Victor put in a good shift. I'm just going to combine the analysis for both of them because it is going to be the same rating for them. Again, positioning is very important, making sure that you're not opening up gaps for the opposition players to take advantage of, marshalling your back line, especially for Maguire as the captain, as the senior most defender, senior most center back. You are the person that's going to be in charge of making sure that back line is in order, making sure that everyone is lining up properly, making sure that there are no gaps for the opposition to exploit, and to make sure that you're aware of potential threats developing. And I think from that perspective, from like a control tower perspective, Maguire has brought a lot of stability and a lot of calm to our back line. So I think whenever he plays, it is a good thing for us.
Yeah. You'd probably want somebody a bit faster who could support him, because sometimes he's a bit slow off the blocks. Would you say that, like, especially in the big games?
For me personally, my ideal center back pairing for United, if everything goes, according to plan and the sun is shining, I'd say that it would be Harry and Eric Bailly, actually, for that specific reason. Okay. I think that Bailly is, this might be, a more controversial opinion, but I think he's the most naturally talented out of all of our center backs.
He just makes these crazy mistakes once in a while, but he
makes these crazy mistakes. But I think that from a physical standpoint, in terms of physical ability and in terms of his actual defensive ability, I think he is the best center back that we have. He has the pace to bail himself out of situations where, let's say, for example, Harry gets beaten on the ball and it's a sort of like a last man scenario where we don't have anyone able to catch up. I see Eric as being the sort of person who can run back and cover for not only himself, but also for his fellow center back, for his other people in the defensive line. I feel that's the sort of center back pairing that we would be going with. I know that right now the sort of trend is that Alde's been going with Victor and Harry Maguire, and I don't have an issue with that. But personally speaking, I'd love to see more of Eric and Harry together.
All right. And so what was your rating for both of them, the center back?
I give them both about a 7-man solid, shut up the shop sort of performance. Couple of shaky moments, but nothing that was too frightening.
Perfect. And Luke Shaw, there's been a lot of criticism about Luke Shaw that he doesn't live up to talent and doesn't use his brain as much. But how do you rate his performance in this game?
So I've actually been a big believer in Luke Shaw this season. I think Luke Shaw's really stepped his game up. Yeah. There was a lot of criticism, like you said, a lot of valid criticism, condition about his criticism, condition about his commitment. Does he really want to be here? Is he of United quality? I know that he's had a bit of bad luck in terms of the leg injuries he's had. It takes a lot to come back from those sorts of things. And I was really happy to see him rise to the challenge put forward by young Brendan Williams. Yeah. I didn't think that there would be that much of a motivation, but to really see that almost like there's a very friendly rivalry, but a rivalry developed between those two players, and to see the performances that Shaw's been putting in. I've been happy with Shaw this season, man. I was happy with Shaw this game. He might not have necessarily done anything, stand out, but I do like the fact that he brings courage to the game. He brings courage on the ball. He's not afraid to bring the ball out of the defense as well. Again, solid game, nothing spectacular. For me, it's like you kind of cruise in with a 7 on that. Yeah. But I really do like the way that he's been progressing this season. Sorry.
Yeah, fair enough. I think those are some valid points. Now let's go to Nemanja Matic. This guy has become like the most important player right now, for United. The way he pinged the ball for Greenwood in the third goal, then set up the goal for Bruno on the counter-attack. That was great. And just the way he's calm on the ball. He destroys attacks. And he's the perfect foil to Pogba and Bruno. Like what I've seen in the last 3 games has just been incredible. Your thoughts on his performance today and his rating?
I agree with you 100% about Matic. Matic is one of those players that he's always been classy. He's always been a very technical player. He's always been very, very, very intelligent. Is he the most, physically capable player? Yeah, he's a big dude, but, he's not the quickest guy. He might not necessarily be the most, skillful person, but I find he always does the little things right. He's good with his positioning. And right now, what we're beginning to see is the result of having a balanced squad, having a balanced midfield where you have different players bringing in different strengths to the squad that help cover for their teammates. So you have a more offensive midfield front two of Bruno and Pogba. You have someone like Matic that allows them to run forward and do their thing, create havoc in the opposition half, while knowing that the United backline is secure, that there's going to be Matic playing in front of them, that our midfield is locked down with this strong defensive presence that has the ability to break up opposition attacks, and also has the ability to play these fantastic long balls or great passes, whether they be short and medium passes as well, and unlock opposition defensive schemes just because of the vision that he has and the ability that he does possess, which a lot of people don't necessarily seem to give him credit for, and see him just as a destroyer. His ball to Greenwood, was it Greenwood?
Yes, no, Greenwood, and then Greenwood set it up for
Bruno. It was out to Greenwood on the left, and then Greenwood set it up for Bruno. I thought that was a fantastic ball. That was an instinctive ball, poked it over the top, long diagonal. Everyone loves a good long diagonal. And it just really it just compressed everything good about Matic into one play. Great sort of defensive play, and then helped transform it into an offensive opportunity for United. And it was just perfect that it worked out into a goal as well. Really happy with this game. I'd give, Matic a solid 8 out of 10 today. My only concern, and this is a happy concern, is that with the resurgence of Matic, what do you do with McSauce and Fred?
Fred, yeah. I was going to ask you about that because, I mean, they play in the same role as him. You wouldn't want them in the creative role. You want it in a similar role. But, sometimes I see them go ahead of the ball and everything. But do you think that's just down to experience? Matt is just much more well-versed? Or do you think they have they're not exactly a Matic type of player where they break down? They like to go ahead and try to attack as well, more box to box, especially like McTominay.
I think there is obviously a difference from player to player. Players like Fred, players like McTominay, they might have more of a sort of innate ability or innate instinct to run forward with the ball. I think Fred definitely has more of the ball carrier characteristics as opposed to, let's say, someone like Matic. And in terms of how they fit into the team, I think what's going to happen and what's quickly happening is that we are beginning to see a team that picks itself almost. That on a regular day, regardless, if you're not, making specific adjustments for opposition, you're going to have Martial on your team. You're going to have Rashford in your team. You're probably going to go with Mason on the right. And then you're going to have a midfield trio of Bruno and Pogba at this point seem to be guaranteed. And then you're going to go on current form, you're going to go with Matic. Where Fred and McTominay come in, they give you a different outlook, a different sort of player in that role. When you need a different look, let's say there's a team that's got a faster midfield. Let's say against a team, let's say like Leicester, that has a very quick midfield with Tielemans and Ndidi, then maybe you want to go with someone who's got a little bit more pace. Maybe you want to go with a Fred. Maybe you want to go with the McTominay in that role because you'll have a little bit more pace to be able to counter them in that midfield area. So I think it's a happy problem to have. I think we should be picking based on, form and merit. And I think based on those characteristics right now, Matic is the clear selection. But it's a very nice problem to have that you have the ability to call upon someone like Scott McTominay, someone like Fred, who are both having good seasons, who are both solid players. And right now, sure, they're on the bench, but they can come on, they can put in a shift, they can do a job at any point in any game.
Yeah, fair enough. There's some valid points there. And let's move on to Paul Pogba. A lot of talk about him before the break. Will he stay? Will he not? But will he connect with Bruno? But right now, it looks like a solid partnership. Whenever he's come on, he's created something. Again, he had an assist today. Your thoughts on his performance today?
I thought Paul was fantastic today. Glad really to see him getting these full runabouts. I'll be honest, I had enough of Pogba.
Yeah.
I'd had enough of Paul. I mean, I love his talent. I love his game. I love everything that he brings, all the positives that he brings, and the things that we used to see in glimpses and flashes in previous seasons. Love that about him. But it was the inconsistency. It was the sort of immaturity, I'd like to call it. It might not necessarily be the right word, but that's what it was perceived as. A lack of commitment to the team. Those things that sort of bubbled through that were more problematic, and it really made me question that, hey, you know what? Do we want to keep this guy? He's obviously phenomenally talented. There's no questioning his talent. There's no questioning his ability. But is it really worth it to keep this guy on the squad? Or are we better off cashing out while we can, getting a good return on investment, and then investing that money into other players that are better suited to the squad? I'm happy to eat crow over here. I'm happy to admit my mistakes and be like, hey, you know what? I got it wrong on Pogba. I didn't know how he would fit in well with Bruno. But I think that there's some very interesting analysis that I've been hearing, both on the TV as well as on websites and whatnot. And that's the idea that it's division of labor almost, in the fact that now that Pogba doesn't have to do everything, he's able to shine more. He's able to attempt more things that have a higher success ratio, because it's like, okay, I don't need to worry about doing that because Matic is going to take care of that for me. Or I don't need to break the defense on every play because Bruno's there to help me out with that. Bruno's there to help deliver that killer pass. So I don't need to do this every single time. I think that just that presence of another player that gives you that sort of like creative freedom, and then also another player that gives you the defensive freedom, I think it's really helping his game overall. And we're beginning to see him turn into the unstoppable beast, the unstoppable force that we know he was always capable of being. I mean, this game, it's just a combination of his size, which makes him really difficult to stop. He's a big lad. He's strong. He's super technical. He's got very quick feet. He's a very complete midfielder if you think about it. And now that he's being able to play up to his ability, I think he's a joy to watch on the field. I'd say, performance based off today, I'd give him a solid 8.5, 8 out of 10. 8.5 for being generous.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I mean, like you're not the only one. A lot of people, even I had like my doubts about Pogba, especially the way he was behaving, the agent issues and everything. But I think now there's like a burden off his shoulders with Bruno there, and hopefully they can just create something special at Old Trafford. But let's see how that goes. And Bruno, spectacular once again. He's changed our season, United season for sure. As a United fan, you probably must be really excited with his performances. There has been recent criticism, like people who've been very technical about it. Like it's been fair criticism, but like about him losing the ball. But as a United fan, wouldn't you take that because of the way he creates chances? Like he does lose the ball here and there, but like you've seen today and you've seen in the past as well, the way he creates chances and even scores goals, you'll take those because he's trying to be more creative. So he's going to take risks, and then you'll take those losses, those missed passes, won't you?
100%, 100% agree. So I was keen on Bruno arriving in the summer. I was keen on Bruno arriving in the winter when he actually did. But I had no idea that he would be this good. Definitely. Because you always want to factor in the fact that, all right, he's coming in from a different league.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether he's coming in from La Liga or he's coming in as in was his case coming in from the Portuguese league. These are all high level leagues, but still there's an adjustment period, different style of play, pace, just even things like the climate of where you're playing, the conditions of where you're playing. All these things have a huge impact. And he totally blew me away with just how confident he was in himself and how quickly that translated into ability on the pitch. So I've been super happy to have him on the squad. I think he's lifted the entire team from the front to the back. Attackers to defenders, midfielders, everyone across the entire pitch has been lifted by his ability. When it comes to, you'd asked a question about what do I think about him losing the ball?
Yeah.
I think that there's nothing wrong with that because he's the sort of player that takes risks. And that's what taking a risk is, right? You make a play and you gamble on it. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to make this pass or I'm going to make this run. And I hope that this is what's going to happen, because if this is what happens, if it goes according to my calculations, then this will create these are the following opportunities for us to take advantage of. And I think that you have to accept that risk, because otherwise you're going to stifle your creativity, which is what we had a massive problem with. Those commentators, whether they are United fans or whether they're just general, football pundits or, people that watch footy, the Premier League, and they find that to be something to, criticize him about. I mean, he was brought in as a creative player. You're not, you haven't brought him in to draw straight lines and, just simple things. You brought him in to add flair and dynamism to your game, and those things come with the occasional misplaced pass, the run that doesn't work out. So I think to criticize him for those things defeats the purpose and fails to see what he brings as a result of the way that he plays.
Yeah, and he's solving the main issue, which is like United had a big problem in breaking down teams this season before Bruno came. And I think without Bruno, probably this today's game wouldn't have been as comfortable. Like he's creating those chances, he's scoring those goals, and he's allowing United to break these defenses. Because we noticed on the break, Ole's got his tactics perfect, like against big teams, but he struggles against teams like Brighton, against Crystal Palace, against Norwich.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
it's every time we came up against the low block, we would be faced with this issue where we would not be able to break them down. And that's what I was talking about. Those points drop, those 2 points drop, those 3 points drop, because we would be faced with a team that knows that we have no other ability to threaten except on the counter. And if they're content with just sitting back 10 men behind the ball, very sort of like comprehensive, defensive shape, and very concentrated sort of lines of play, they know that prior to the Bruno revolution, if you will, United's just going to pass the ball sideways to sideways throughout the entire game, and we're not going to have any real incisiveness into their box. There's not going to be any real threat of United scoring. So we've solved that issue by adding Bruno, and it gives our team the creativity that it needed. It gives them that spontaneity. It gives them that flair that was missing this entire time. So I think to criticize him for occasionally losing the ball, like I said, for misplacing a pass here and there, it's the whole reason we got him. We got him so that it was to break down. It was to fix what wasn't working, and it has fixed what wasn't working. Again, it's only a small sample size. It's only a couple of games, but the way that it's looking, it looks like he's the real deal. I think it's strange to go back and criticize him for what we were criticizing other players for before, that, there's not enough creativity. There's not enough chances being taken. So that's my view, and I think it's just silly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that. And so, what rating did you give him? Sorry, I don't know.
9, easy. 9.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's bordering 10. That was a brilliant performance. And moving on to the front three, I think Greenwood was the pick of the lot today. Let's start with him. An assist and a goal, a fantastic goal. He's been good on that left wing. Like I still on the right wing. Sorry, I still think we need a right winger. I still think United needs Sancho, but Greenwood's shown that he has the ability, and there's a lot of there's a lot of talent right there to be exploited, and hopefully he'll do well for United in the future. Your thoughts on his performance?
Loved every minute of Greenwood. Loved him every minute he's been playing. I loved how he's developed. I mean, I'll be honest. I knew about him from the reserves and the under-21, sort of like, hey, there's this player that's coming up, but I hadn't pegged him to be the next big thing. And ever since he's joined the first team, I see his climb, his ascent into making that first team position making it comfortable. I think really it's been on a parallel to something like Rashford's trajectory, in terms of scoring goals in big games, being very comfortable in all the games that he's played, regardless of the opposition. I've been very, very happy with how he's performed. His footballing IQ is very sharp. His finishing ability is great. He's got natural finishing ability. I know it's something that they repeat in the commentary game in, game out, but truly he's good off either feet. Every time he busts into that box, he breaks into that box, and then he hits them with those little step overs. It's just, you always have this feeling that, something might happen. He might just be able to score and make something out of nothing, even though you don't necessarily see the angle that he's going to score from. He might be able to score from. And I think that's what happened today. It was just a very, it was a simple run, very quick, just burst into the box, couple of nice step overs, and just, solid finish. I'm really happy with how he's been progressing. I think he's a great option for us coming down the right. I think that you're absolutely correct in saying that we need a proper right-sided player in the mold of Jadon Sancho, someone like that, to come in and really lock that position down and deliver everything that we need, which would then free up someone like Mason to move towards a more central role. But I think for now, his performances have been fantastic. He's been great off the right. Loved his game today. I'd want to give him a 9. I'd give him an 8.5 just because he didn't score twice, but I'd want to give him a 9.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100%. And I think someone like Sancho will probably get the better out of Greenwood. He's still young, so it's not like he'll start every game. So I think that'll improve his game as well with somebody like Sancho, and he can probably mentor him or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see what happens next season. But definitely a brilliant performance. And Rashford and Martial, let's go with Martial first. Not the hat-trick performance we saw against Sheffield, but he still he created some space there for the likes of Greenwood to make runs behind. He probably didn't score today, but he's been good since the lockdown. Your thoughts on his performance today?
So I'm a big Martial fan. I've been super biased ever since we got him. Always thought he was going to be the next big thing. Always thought the 50 million was worth it. Never thought it went down the drain.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
But for me, like, I think we do need to, call things out when they don't happen. I think today was a slow game by his standards. I think, especially compared to how he played against Sheffield. Obviously, if you're going to compare a hat trick game to a game where a player doesn't register a goal and an assist, it's going to be a quieter game. But I think that there was something missing from his game today, and that's okay. He doesn't need to have a spectacular game every single game, as long as we're getting production across the front line. So I think he had a quieter game today. I don't think he played as well. I still think he contributed well. I think there was some good runs, some good movement, some good thinking going on. But in terms of ability to impact the game in the same way that he did against Sheffield, how we've seen him impact the game on previous occasions when he's shown up, definitely didn't get that today. I'd want to give him a 6 just to be a little bit harsh, more as a motivating factor than anything else.
I think that's fair enough. Yeah.
I think, we all know that Tony's solid, Tony can deliver. Yeah. And it's okay to call him out when he doesn't. I think today was one of those games where he wasn't at his best, but we still got some good stuff out of it.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And with Rashford, he's taking some time. I think that injury really caused some issues for him. He's been really rusty since he's come back. I think it's just a matter of games until he scores. But he probably just needs this game time, right? What do you think about today and in Rashford in general?
I think what you're saying about Rashford is correct, man. It's just a matter of time. He just needs games. He just needs, more and more time in front of goal. The talent is absolutely there. It's been proven to us enough times. I think you'd have to be, the most sort of biased spectator if you were to say that Rashford doesn't have the talent at this point in time.
Yeah. He's improved his finishing as well this season. We saw in big games against City as
absolutely.
well. He's improved his finishing. So there's a lot of scope there. There's a lot of criticism that he couldn't finish, but he's worked on that this season. I think right now is just a matter of just coming back and getting into the zone because of his injury and then the lockdown.
For sure. I mean, he's absolutely, injury is going to make a big difference. It's going to affect the way that you're playing. I mean, we all know that consistency is one of the best things in order to bring out, top tier performance, because then things start, happening on a subconscious automatic level. You just know where you need to be in order for you to score that goal. That comes with playing consistently, with having consistent game time. He hasn't had that for, obviously because of the pandemic, no one's had that. And then he had that injury beforehand as well. But what I like to point out during this time is that, sure, he's had a couple of games where he hasn't necessarily scored in the positions you would have expected him to, but he's still delivering assists. He's still contributing. He's still making big contributions up front. So, if you were to tell me that, Rashford's having a terrible game, he's been playing awful, but he's still banging in an assist or two every game, I'll be honest, I'm still kind of happy with that, because for him to bang in an assist means someone else had to score. So I'm happy with the team scoring. I'm happy with goals going in. And I think it's really important to have a good sort of diversity in your goal scorer so that you're not too dependent on any one player. You're not too dependent on the front line. You have goals coming from all across the team. It makes for confidence across the team. Everyone believes in themselves. The team trusts each other. It's not just like, I'm not going to give the ball to Fred because Fred can't shoot.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's really good. And then once again, the best part about it is that when you have this sort of more like holistic contribution where everybody's been pitching in, it allows players to take a couple of games off and figure things out, if they've been injured, if they've missed some game time. It allows them to have a little bit of rust, a little bit of consistency issues that they can work back from, instead of being put right into the spotlight and being like, hey, you know what? You're the only person that can score. You're the only person that can do anything in the game. And we're putting all our eggs in one basket. I think that pressure is super detrimental. So to have that burden shared by Martial stepping up and scoring a hat trick, Mason stepping up and scoring one today, Bruno scoring 2 from open play today, I think those things are super important for the development of our team, because it's just going to lead to this development of goodwill and confidence throughout the team and in each other.
Definitely, yeah. Those are.
Rating for for Rashford before I forget.
Yeah,
I'm going to give him a 7 because I do want him to score, but I think that just the fact that he's assisting is fantastic, and you can't knock that.
Yeah, you wouldn't give him a 6, huh?
I wouldn't give him a 6, man, because I think those runs pull defenders out of position. Even if he isn't scoring, that threat still makes a difference.
Fair enough, yeah.
And if he's still setting up other people, then I'm happy with that.
Fair enough. I think, we've covered the starting 11, and we won't really rate the subs today. They're on for a short time, but someone like Brandon Williams was very impressive once again. Almost scored, I think, as well. I think it's your ratings were on point, and thank you so much for coming on again, and
No problem. That's my pleasure.
hope to see you again. And the top 4 race is heating up, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens until the end of the season.
Absolutely. Like, catch me like you did this time. Just message me mid-game and ask me if I'm down to do another player rating. It's the way you'll catch me in the future.
For sure. Thank you so much for coming on, and see you soon. Take care.
Take care, brother. Have a good one.
Have a good one.